They told me to hand over the keys, not in a calm conversation, not with any gratitude for what I'd done. They demanded it like I'd stolen something that was never mine. Just give it to Maya, my mother snapped, standing beside my sister like she was her lawyer, not her mom. She's better suited to manage property. And let's be honest, you've always been too emotional to make adult decisions. I didn't say a word. Not when my father nodded in silent agreement. Not when Maya crossed her arms and said, "This place means more to the whole family than it ever did to you." And definitely not when they started discussing selling the cabin, my cabin, before I had even finished grieving the woman who left it to me. You want to know what I did? I smiled. And then I locked the gate. The same gate they tried to drive through 3 days later with catered food balloons and folding chairs planning a family reunion they never asked my permission for. But let's rewind. Because to understand why I changed the locks, why I hired lawyers, why I turned that cabin into something untouchable, you need to know how this war really started. Not with the will, not with the reading of Grandma's final wishes, not even with the key I found in her jewelry box marked for Sarah. It started on a porch, on a cold morning, with a suitcase at my feet and my sister blocking the door like a bouncer at a club. "You're not staying here," Maya said flatly, flipping the key in her fingers like she already owned it. Mom and Dad had told her she could move in. They'd called me earlier that week saying it makes more sense this way. She needs a fresh start. You don't even like being in the mountains that long. But they never asked what I wanted. They forgot one crucial detail: Grandma had a will. And Grandma didn't leave the cabin to the family. She left it to me, by name, in writing. I looked Maya dead in the eye and said quietly, "Then I guess you should have read Grandma's will before changing the locks." She laughed. But her laugh didn't reach her eyes. Maya was always the golden child, the story spinner, the favorite. She could miss birthdays and still be forgiven. I could show up early, do the dishes, clean the yard, and somehow still be invisible. But not to Grandma. Grandma saw me in every quiet moment, in the way I listened instead of talked, in how I knew when she needed tea before she asked, in how I loved the cabin, not for what it could become, but for exactly what it was. Maya, on the other hand, she hated the woods, called the place too damp, said it smelled like sadness and old people. She never once stayed a full weekend without complaining. But the moment Grandma passed, suddenly the cabin was hers. Suddenly they all wanted it. Suddenly I was the selfish one for keeping what wasn't mine to take. I kept quiet through the funeral. Let Maya take center stage with her crocodile tears and tragic monologues. Let her accept condolences like she'd been the one to wash Grandma's sheets, to hold her hand at 2 a.m. to make her soup when she could barely swallow. She wasn't. That was me. But no one wanted to hear that. Not until the lawyer opened the envelope. Not until he said to my granddaughter, Sarah. That was the moment the air left the room. That was the moment they started looking at me not like a daughter or a sister, but like an enemy. I didn't fight back, not at first. I thought they would calm down. I thought grief was making them irrational. I thought stupidly that blood meant something. But then came the party. One weekend after the will was read, I arrived at the cabin to find it full of strangers. Maya had brought a dozen friends, loud, drunk, stomping across Grandma's floors. One of them was standing on Grandma's hand-painted table playing DJ. Another had moved her reading chair to make room for beer pong. "This is my cabin now," Maya said, sipping from a red Solo cup. "You should have called before showing up." That was the night I realized they didn't just want the cabin. They wanted to erase the person Grandma chose. And I wasn't going to let them. I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't throw anything or make a scene. Instead, I walked inside, slowly, like I belonged there, because I did. Maya followed behind me, still chattering. "Don't be so uptight. It's a celebration." Grandma wouldn't have wanted everyone sitting around moping. Someone knocked over her antique lamp, the one with wildflowers she painted by hand the summer before Grandpa died. I froze. A piece of glass clinked to the floor like the sound of something sacred breaking. And I saw it, the truth. They weren't mourning her, they were erasing her. I want everyone out. I said, my voice so low it cut through the room like thunder. Laughter died. Beer cans hit tabletops. The music was still playing, but it suddenly sounded too loud, too artificial. You're overreacting, Maya said. You don't get to tell me what to do in my cabin. She rolled her eyes, waved me off like a petulant toddler. So I pulled out my phone and started dialing the police. You would have thought I'd pulled a gun. Her friends started grabbing their jackets without another word. One guy, bless him, actually apologized on the way out. It took 3 hours to clean. I swept up chips and shattered glass, scrubbed sticky floors, put Grandma's chair back where it belonged by the east-facing window where she used to read with the sun on her face. I barely noticed I was crying until I saw the watermarks on the hardwood. Not from sadness, from fury. Grief is quiet, but rage it gets things done. The next morning I called the estate lawyer. Can they take it back, I asked. He sighed. Only if they prove your grandmother was mentally unfit when she signed the will. But her medical records are clean. And she updated her documents just 6 months ago. Legally, it's airtight. But what if they just show up again? Then it's trespassing. Call the police. Document everything. So I did. Changed the locks, installed motion sensors, put up no trespassing signs at the gate. Then I changed my phone number, left the family group chat, let mom's voicemails pile up unheard. 43 seconds of guilt. Demands for mature conversations. Thinly veiled threats hidden beneath saccharine tones. I didn't answer. Instead, I made a plan. I opened a new bank account separate from everything else. Hired a locksmith, a cleaning service, a legal consultant. And I started restoring the cabin piece by piece. Maya could have parties. I would have a strategy. They didn't need to know what I was doing. Silence was power, and I intended to wield it. Weeks passed. The calls stopped. The texts slowed. The silence was sharp but oddly peaceful. Until one morning, just as spring was blooming across the lake, my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered out of habit. Sarah, thank God, it's Maya. My hand gripped the paintbrush I was using to refinish the porch. How did you get this number? I called your work line. Listen, we need to talk. I said nothing. She kept going. The family is planning a Memorial Day reunion at the cabin. Mom already ordered food. Dad's bringing the smoker. We're all set. I blinked. No. What? No, the cabin isn't available for family events. Her voice shifted, sweet, wounded. You can't be serious. It's been months. This childish grudge over Grandma's will, it's tearing the family apart. You mean me refusing to give you what she left me? I mean us wanting to come together to honor her memory. You can do that anywhere. You have a house, a backyard. But the cabin is mine. Click. An hour later, I got a text. From Dad, we're coming to the cabin Saturday. It's time to be reasonable. I responded, the property is posted. Trespassers will be prosecuted. No reply. Saturday morning, I sat on the porch sipping coffee. The breeze carried bird song and the faint hum of tires on gravel. And then I saw them. 5 cars, Dad's truck, Mom's SUV, Maya's too bright sedan, plus 2 others I didn't recognize. They reached the locked gate and stopped. I watched them through the security cameras I'd installed last month. They stood outside staring at the private property sign. Maya tried to climb the gate. Didn't realize I'd installed decorative but sharp anti-climb spikes. They argued for 20 minutes. Maya called. I let it ring. Then Mom, then Dad. Finally a text, open this gate or we're calling the police. I replied, please do. I'll show them the deed and the camera footage. An hour later, they drove away. That night, Maya called again. You've lost your mind, she spat. You're destroying this family. I'm protecting what Grandma left me. She left it to the family. No, she left it to me, by name, in writing. You can't just steal our memories. I'm not. Your memories are yours. The cabin is mine. Silence. Then, Mom's crying. Dad says he's never been more disappointed. For a second, just a second, I wavered. Then I remembered. Not once in the month since Grandma died had Maya asked how I was doing. Not once had she offered to help with the funeral. Not once had she said, "Thank you for the year I gave up to care for the woman who raised us both." "I'm sorry they're upset," I said quietly. But the answer is still no. What if we paid rent like $500 a night? That's fair, right? That's below market and it's not available. What do you mean not available? Who else would? I'm opening a business. Retreats, mindfulness, writing, grief counseling. You're renting the cabin to strangers instead of us. No, I'm building something sacred in grandma's memory. Click. That night, I registered the LLC, Sunrise Retreat. I hired a designer, built a website, outlined programs. The first retreat launched in July. 8 women, all grieving, all searching. We wrote letters to our lost ones, cried, laughed, lit candles. And on the last night, we watched the sunrise from Grandma's chair. One participant, Eleanor, 93 sharp as a blade, whispered to me, "This place holds love. I can feel it in the walls." I cried then too. But this time it was different. This time it was healing. In August, I hosted a retreat for caregivers. In September, a writing workshop for people starting over. I planted wildflowers, hung grandma's quilts in the guest rooms, made space for light and quiet and truth. And the cabin felt alive again. Not because I'd preserved it, because I'd claimed it. October came, and with it a phone call I wasn't expecting. The caller ID read Maya. I almost let it go to voicemail, but curiosity won. And a small, self destructive part of me wanted to know what she'd say. "Hey," she said casually, like we were college roommates catching up. "I heard about your little business venture. Sunrise Retreat, huh? Very cute. Playing therapist now." I didn't answer. She kept going. "It's kind of funny, isn't it? You shut out your whole family and now you're inviting strangers into the cabin like they're your new sisters or something." I could practically hear the eye roll. "They're not strangers," I said quietly. "They're people who know grief, who honor it. And what your family doesn't grieve, you didn't, not when it mattered." Silence. "Then how much money are you making?" There it was, the real question. I laughed. "You think this is about profit? Isn't it you've always been too dreamy, too weird, too bookish?" Let's be real, Sarah. You're not a businesswoman. You're not exactly warm and fuzzy. People don't come to quiet girls who hide in corners. No, I said. They come to quiet spaces that listen, that hold them without demanding anything. That's what this place is now. Oh my God, you sound like a brochure. You sound jealous. That silenced her again. And I realized then she was, of the peace, of the clarity, of the fact that Grandma had chosen me not as an act of pity, but as an act of recognition. "I've been thinking," Maya said, her tone shifting. "Maybe we could be partners." I blinked. "Excuse me. You know, you run the soft stuff, journaling, crying, meditating. I'll handle marketing, bookings, social media. I'm great with people." "No. You haven't even heard." I said no. "You can't do this alone forever." "But I already am. This is insane. It's just a cabin." "No," I said. "It's home. And I'm finally making it one that can't be stolen." She called again a week later. This time it was almost genuine. "I've been thinking," she said, "about Grandma, about you." I waited. "I was wrong," she said. "About the party, about the will, about everything." Silence. "I miss you," she said, "not the cabin, you." I didn't know what to say, because part of me did miss her. The version of her that could be kind. The girl who used to braid my hair before school dances, who once punched a boy in 7th grade for calling me weird. But the woman who mocked my grief, who broke Grandma's lamp and called me selfish, that woman had burned bridges like she was proud of the smoke. "Would you consider," Maya said, "letting us use the cabin for Christmas?" There it was again, the angle, the ask. "You want to apologize?" I said. "Fine, but don't wrap it in conditions." "I'm serious." "So am I. If you want to stay at the cabin, check the website. The holiday rate is $500 per night. You're charging your own family." I didn't hesitate. "You're not entitled to free access just because we share blood." Christmas came. I spent the morning alone in the cabin. Snow had fallen overnight, blanketing the pines in silence. I brewed coffee in Grandma's old pot. curled into her chair, the one that still smelled faintly of cedar and lavender. The lake outside glowed soft pink in the rising light. It felt like she was there, not in body but in presence. I checked my phone. Text from Mom, a long one from Dad, and one from Maya Merry Christmas. I hope you're okay. I miss you. I didn't reply. Instead, I called Eleanor. Sarah, she answered, her voice soft with age and joy. Merry Christmas, I said. She chuckled. I'm writing a letter to Rebecca, telling her about the cardinal that's been visiting my feeder. Red as fire. You, just me, in the cabin. It's perfect. You know, sometimes. Eleanor said the family we choose ends up being more honest than the family we're born into. She didn't mean it as an insult, but it landed like truth. After we hung up, I spent the rest of the morning reviewing applications for spring retreats. The business was growing faster than I'd anticipated. I was already planning expansions, maybe a small writing cottage. Maybe partnerships with local therapists. Maybe more. More light, more healing, more purpose. Around noon, I heard a car. I checked the cameras. Maya. Alone. She stepped out of her car, slowly holding something wrapped in silver paper. I walked to the gate, unsure what I'd say. She didn't ask me to open it. I brought you something, she said. A bribe. No, she said, a gift, a real one. I looked at her face. She looked tired. Not just physically, spiritually, older somehow, less invincible. Can I leave it here, she asked? Or do you want me to walk away? I opened the gate. She handed me the package. Inside was a framed photograph I'd never seen. Me, 16, maybe, reading a book on the porch. Grandma beside me, eyes closed, face soft with peace. She always looked calm around you, Maya said. I don't think I ever saw her look like that. I touched the glass. It felt heavier than it looked. I found it in Mom's album, she continued. I didn't even know she had it. Why now, I asked. Because I've been miserable, she said. And I think I finally understand why. She didn't sugarcoat it, didn't dramatize, just stood there and owned her part. I was jealous, she admitted. You had something real with Grandma. I didn't. So instead of trying to build something like it, I tried to take yours. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. I was wrong. About the cabin, about you. I didn't say anything for a long time. Then you want a relationship with me. Not the cabin, not the inheritance, just me. She nodded. Then we start slow. Coffee, calls. But Maya, this place stays mine. The business stays mine. No back doors, no guilt trips. I understand. I believed her, not because she'd become someone new, but because for the first time she saw the damage she'd caused. And she wanted to repair it. We sat on the porch that afternoon, shared a thermos of cocoa, watched snow melt off the rooftop like it was forgiveness dripping into the earth. I told her about the retreat guests, about Eleanor, about the workshops coming in spring. She listened, really listened. And when she left, she hugged me, tight, like sisters, like family. Maya didn't call the next day or the next. She didn't text, didn't try to push, didn't send any backhanded remarks or fake invitations or guilt-laced pleasantries. Instead, a week later, she emailed me. Subject line, coffee next Saturday, my treat, no agendas, just maybe a second chance. I stared at the screen for a long time, not because I didn't know what to say, but because part of me had always dreamed she'd say it. And another part of me never thought she actually would. We met at a small cafe near the base of the mountain. She was already there when I arrived, at no dramatic entrance, no flashy clothes, no practiced charm. Just her, sitting quietly, 2 mugs of tea already on the table. I remember you always liked peppermint, she said. I nodded. I do. It was awkward at first, clumsy, like trying to relearn how to speak a language you once shared as children. But beneath it all, something had shifted. She asked questions, real ones, not about the cabin, not about the business, about me, about how I was sleeping, how I was managing my grief, whether I still woke up in the middle of the night looking for the sound of Grandma's footsteps in the hallway. I did, often. Do you miss her? I asked. Every day, she said. I believed her, but grief looks different depending on who you are when it finds you. For me, it became a garden I tended every day. For Maya, it had been a storm she'd tried to outrun. Until now. Spring came early that year. By March, the lake thawed enough to shimmer again. The sun began to linger on the cabin's walls, painting them gold in the mornings like Grandma always said it should. Sunrise Retreat bloomed with the season. My April workshop filled up in 5 days. Then a therapist from Portland reached out asking to host a grief weekend for healthcare workers. Then an artist collective. Then a yoga and healing circle from Vermont. People didn't just come to the cabin anymore, they came home to themselves, and I was their witness. I left Grandma's favorite chair where it always had been by the window, but around it I built a new space. A quiet room, no phones, no schedules, just books, natural light, and silence. It was the room most guests cried in, not because it was sad, but because it reminded them that stillness is not the enemy. Sometimes it's the only way grief can speak. By June, the business was thriving. Not loud, not flashy, but alive. I hired part-time help, partnered with a local bakery for retreat catering, set up solar panels, even started plans for a second cottage one for writing residencies. It wasn't what my family imagined. It wasn't about money or property. It was a place where people rebuilt what the world had taken from them. It was a place where love wasn't loud, but it was loyal. Just like Grandma. One afternoon, Maya called. "I have a weird question," she said. I braced myself. "Can I volunteer for one of your retreats?" I blinked. "You want to help?" "I've been taking a caregiving class online," she said. "I don't know. I thought maybe it'd be good to show up for someone else." "The way you did." My throat tightened. "Come to the June retreat," I said. "Help me set up." She did. And she worked. Not to impress anyone. Not to get something in return. She listened to guests, folded linens, washed dishes without being asked. I caught her one evening sitting in Grandma's chair alone, just watching the sunset. "She really loved it here," she said. "She really loved us." "I'm sorry, I didn't see it before." That retreat ended with a circle of people holding candles under the stars. Each one shared something they were letting go of. Shame, guilt, the need to be perfect, the fear of being forgotten. When it was Maya's turn, she said, "I'm letting go of thinking I had to be the center of everything to be worthy of love." No one knew the story behind it, but I did, and I was proud of her. The next morning, as we cleaned up, she looked at me and said, "I'm not asking for anything, but if you ever need help, real help, I'm here." I nodded. We weren't best friends, but we were rebuilding, and that was enough. That August, I received a letter from Eleanor's niece. Eleanor had passed peacefully in her sleep. The letter included one sentence that made my chest ache and glow at once. She said the last place she ever felt completely at peace was with you. Thank you for giving her that. I framed it, hung it above the door, let the guests see it when they left. A reminder that even small places in the world can hold massive amounts of love. Christmas came again. This time, Maya didn't ask to stay. She just came by with a tin of cookies, a real hug, and an ornament made from pressed wildflowers. I thought it could hang in Grandma's reading room. We placed it together. No speeches, no conditions, just presence. That night, I sat in the armchair, watched the snow, listened to the silence. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel like I had to defend my right to be here, because I knew this place didn't just belong to me. It belonged to the love I carried, the love I protected, the love I shared. Some people inherit money, some inherit houses, some inherit nothing but secrets. But me, I inherited the truth. That real love is quiet. Real strength doesn't shout. And some legacies are too sacred to be divided. So if you're still wondering, yes, Grandma left me the cabin. Yes, my family tried to give it to my sister, but I turned it into something untouchable because it never belonged to any of us. It belonged to love. And love, real love, answers only to those who show up when no one's watching.